Hey there, cinephiles. Welcome to Yeti Talks, the show in which I bring on guests. Today, I have a very special guest, which I'll get into in a second, because we are starting our Pixar journey. I'm going to go through every single Pixar movie in release order, starting with Toy Story, the big granddaddy of them all. And I had to bring a very special guest out. He's a fellow film critic friend. He's in the same association that I'm in. He might be related to me, and he has great takes here on YouTube. Anthony, welcome. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. And yes, we may be related. I really feel at this point that we're going to discover that we're long lost cousins who just so happen to have the same interest and find each other all these years later. But thanks for having me on, man. Honestly, before we get into this, I mean, Toy Story is a movie that, I don't think you know this, that when you chose this for me, but a pivotal. Here we go. Look, you were worried about your intro messing up. Here I am. Um, a pivotal film in my love for film and cinema, animation. Obviously, a pivotal film for animation, but very special place in my heart, this film. So I'm actually really grateful that you invited me on and gave me a reason to rewatch this absolute gem.
Yeah, no, I definitely had to. You had me on your channel so many times. I had to return the favor, especially with starting off this great series. So let's get into the movie. I took a bunch of notes. I don't know about you. How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I didn't take notes because I figured knowing you
Yeah.
and it being your show, I figured you had notes. But I've seen this movie legitimately hundreds of times. This rewatch was just for fun. Um, it was a lot of fun to revisit. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm looking forward to getting into this.
Nice. All right. Well, when was the first time you saw this, by the way? Let's get into that.
So I was born in 93. I believe this came out in
95.
96, 95. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, by the time I was probably like four or so, I can remember like at least having toys. My first memory is at 4 years old. Now, are all those memories 100% clear? Not so much. But my first memory was at about 4 years old, and I can remember just having all the toys. We're both Florida boys, so growing up as a kid, went to Disney World all the time. So as far as my first time seeing it, I have to imagine it was around that realm of like 4 to 5 years old. And yeah, I mean, it just kind of stuck with me ever since. I just think it's one of those films that, like, even watching it this time around was just so like, it almost feels like it just feels like a part of me in that way. There are certain movies that I'm sure we can both relate to from our childhood that just feel like a part of your DNA. Like they were integral in creating your ability to understand that you're watching a piece of art or that like you were consumed by a piece of art. We recently had a video that we did on another channel on the Latino Slant for Los Cinemáticos, where we talked about three of our most iconic films or three films that made us fall in love with film. And Toy Story was one of those that I almost chose for that list because it's just one of those movies that, man, just resonates with core memories of ever watching movies at all. So I know it's a long-winded response to say essentially from as early as I can remember being alive.
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, it was the same for me. And I know in my parents' house, they have this VHS of Toy Story, which is pretty awesome. And like, I just don't remember a time where Toy Story wasn't in my life. Granted, I was born after this movie came out, so obviously that's the case. But it's just, I just don't know like when the first time I saw it was. I just know it was always there. And I know this is going to be a future episode. I don't know with who yet, but Toy Story 3, like I have a very vivid memory of going to see that in theaters and just realizing how big of a stepping stone that was. And then, of course, now we had Toy Story 4. And this year, so many years later, we're getting Toy Story 5. So I felt like this was a perfect time to start this series and to get into this movie. And now to get into the actual movie, if you don't know Toy Story, first of all, I find that hard to believe. But basically, this follows a group of toys who are owned by Woody, or not by Woody, by Andy. And their leader is Woody. And he gets jealous of this new toy, Buzz, who kind of crash lands, and well, hijinks ensue, basically. It's a good old time. It's a great movie. I really do like it. I know before this recording, Anthony already wasn't a fan of my rating on Letterboxd. Just to be upfront, I did give it a 3.5, but I'll get into why in a little bit. Which, Anthony, I believe you did give it the full five, right?
I gave it the full five,
Mhm.
for sure. We can get into why in a
Yeah.
second, but I did give it the full five.
Yeah, so um it's really just it felt like it was such the right time to get into this movie just because I know so many people are going to get nostalgic for these films. And watching the movie just from the get, you can tell something was different about this. Obviously, there were so many other animated films that came out before this movie, but this definitely feels like the start of just the Pixar brand. There's so many iconic things in this movie, which we'll get into in all my notes, just from the wonderful Randy Newman music to honestly setting up so many of the other films, like with its little Easter eggs. There was stuff for Cars in this movie, and Cars came out like 12 years after this, I believe, like '06 or
Yeah, yeah.
something. Um, so yeah, in rewatching it, I know I haven't seen this movie in about 3 years when I went through all the Pixar movies back then. In your rewatch, Anthony, of this, did you feel like, yeah, they knew this was the start of something, let alone not just a franchise, but a whole brand?
I think the beauty of it almost is that I don't think that they did. I
Mhm.
think this was like more than anything. I think it is, right? Here's the
Mhm.
difference. I think it is. Do I think
Mhm.
they made that with intention? No. And I think that that's why it is. I think it's one of those movies that the creativity is what shines here. We look back now, I think some people take Toy Story for granted because we've gotten so many films in this franchise at this point. We've gotten, shorts, we've gotten video games, we've had so many toys and theme park elements. And so now Toy Story is so ingrained in the culture that you can take it for granted. But I think similarly to like my favorite franchise, right, which is kind of in the same vein of like it's become so ingrained that like people will take it for granted. That original film, like what made it work, it's like not even George Lucas didn't expect it was going to turn into what it became. He just created something with like real heart, but it's the perfect blueprint and template. Like it does so good by the lore that it will continue to be expanded upon later on. So similarly with Toy Story, I mean, it just has so much fun with these concepts of the toys alone, but then all these little Easter eggs and connections to future movies. Of course, like one that is blaring in this or glaring, I should say, in this movie is like the Dynaco,
Exactly.
sign that they see at the gas station. And there's just so many other little things that, I think one thing that I love about this era of Pixar is just how much fun it felt like they were having with their movies. Not to say that modern day Pixar movies aren't still at least good, but I think that there was something to a film like this that really gave it its own spin. And let's be real, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first ever 3D animated film, feature length film.
Mhm.
And I mean, like it's still one of the best. Does it
Yeah.
look as good as even future installments in the franchise? Absolutely not. Does it look as good as what Pixar's putting out now, or even what they put out 10 years from now, or what they put out 10 years after this? No. But what a blueprint. I mean, and what a incredible start. I mean, the characters, the concepts, the fun of it, the Randy Newman music, the feels of it, and kind of this mix of like adult themes and stuff that's still able to be ingested by kids. It's I think part of why it is the perfect like template and build off for this brand is that it was just a labor of love that wasn't intended to build something. I think of something like the Universal Dark Universe thing where they like, listen, let's be real. Fans
Mhm.
would love to see a connected universe of the movie monsters. Universal did it in the past, but it just feels like when you try to make it a thing, it just doesn't always work. You kind of have to let it organically grow. So that's my very long-winded response. I feel
No,
like
you're
there's
good.
gonna be a lot of those. For anybody who knows me, I can be very long-winded.
And if you don't know him, you got to follow him. I'll have his information down in the description. He's a great guy, both in his work and also just as a friend. So definitely go check him out if you haven't yet. But yeah, so speaking of like the labor of love, I think that really, you're right. It shines through in this movie because this movie literally opens with a kid playing with his toys. Like you are in the scenario that the kid is displaying for you. And then you start to peel back those layers and you start to realize that these toys are alive. Like they have their own conscious, which is a genius idea too. Like for that to be an animated movie and for it to take so long to get to that point. Granted, you might need the right animation, which 3D offers, I definitely feel like, so you can get that sense of like you're able to actually play with these toys yourselves, even though it's animated. But yeah, no, I mean, like you said too, this movie has a lot of great adult themes, and I think it's so smart the way they kind of deliver those themes and just the story. Because if they weren't toys, this is a really good dramedy, you know, with the little horror elements in the, third act and so on.
Yeah.
But just for the start of this movie alone, the way it kind of sets up this world and kind of goes through, and you get to meet Woody and you get to, meet Slinky Dog, who is his right hand man, but he's a dog who slinks. You get Mr. Potato Head, who also has so much character, and just everyone in here is just so iconic in it of themselves, which some of them are already pre-existing toys, or if they're not pre-existing toys, they're like spin-offs of pre-existing toys. Shout out Mr. Potato Head, you have Bo Peep as well. Like there's these already iconic characters, but with the twist. And how do you feel about that? Like getting thrown into this world and kind of just unveiling, exactly seeing and understanding what you're in for.
I think that's probably one of the best parts about the movie is it feels like it does it pretty quickly and it does it in such a digestible fashion. I think even as a kid, you just click into it pretty quickly. I never watched this movie as a kid and said, I don't fully understand what's going on. I don't, how does this tie into, what's happened? It's like it just sells you on it quickly. And as a kid, you're even not thinking about some of these adult themes. There are some movies nowadays that I think have like pretty heavy-handed innuendos,
Mhm.
so that the parents in the crowd could be like, "Ha ha." But while this movie has its moments, it's all like still kind of tame,
Mhm.
and but it all, depending on your viewpoint, it can be kind of funny. But I think it does a really good job of like setting up the logistics of it, like immediately with like the town hall meeting and like just using the Andy's birthday party at the top of the movie as a perfect way to just like really sell like what are these toys afraid of? What is their day to day? What are they looking forward to? They want to be played with, they want to be taken care of, they want to be there for Andy, they don't
Mhm.
want to be replaced. Um, and I think that it just does such a good job of setting things up immediately. Now, upon rewatch this time around, there was, definitely questions around like the introduction of Buzz Lightyear. Like, I guess something I've never really considered as much until like this rewatch is like, are there a lot of other toys that that come out of the box and aren't aware that they're toys, that they
Mhm.
think that they're whatever toy that they're about. Whereas in the series in general, we've usually seen that they come out of the box and they're aware that they're a toy, like it's
Yeah.
and even Buzz in this movie will go toy mode. Like he knows innately to
Yes.
do it, despite the fact that he should, based on all the other scenes, look at Andy and be like, it's a monster or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the movie does a great job of setting you up, throwing you into this world, just using that whole first 15 minutes to really give you an idea of what the life of these toys is like and the premise. You know what I mean? It doesn't take long before Buzz Lightyear's in that room and you know the whole idea of this one toy, the past and the future, you know what I mean? Which is so ironic that so much of the story of Toy Story is about the past and the future, the moving on to the next chapter of life, Of course, initially it's symbolized through Woody and Buzz, but I mean, as we go older and we grow with Andy throughout the sequels, it's like it's just it's so beautiful that they were able to kind of keep that theme as time went
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, no, and it's very, I love what you said about the Buzz thing. Like watching it this time, I don't know why in the CinemaSins brain, like minor thing that came through. I'm like, wait, how did, but Buzz doesn't, Buzz thinks the other toys are living, like just beings, but doesn't, he goes into toy mode for Andy. I'm like, wait. But I'm like, no, whatever, it doesn't matter because like everything else is so smart about this film, and that's just such a, you just gotta buy into it at the end of the day. And I hope,
Yeah,
I'm glad, honestly, this wasn't like a take that's been overtaken by TikTok and Twitter, you know? Like that could so easily be a thing where like this movie actually sucks because why does Buzz do this type of thing? Which
right.
if this came out today and like we never had Toy Story before, I just know people would not buy it because people just love to talk about movies in a negative light.
Right.
But the idea of accepting the past or like, like moving on from the past and kind of growing from it and having the past and present slash future with Woody and Buzz. I mean, this movie is just so smart because you literally have a cowboy and a spaceman. Like,
Right.
how much more past and present slash future can you get with that, you know?
Right.
It's so many small details like that, and like the world building, like you said, it's done very quickly, and it's also not done in a way that would be annoying to adults or just like anyone who isn't a kid, because it's not straight up verbally looking in the camera and telling you, hey, this is our world, this is what we do. And they don't do that to any character either. You just get to live in it for a bit, and it trusts you enough to actually go through it, which nowadays I feel like most kids movies have to be like, okay, let's stop the movie for 5 minutes, explain all of the lore, all of the world, at least enough so you can understand, and then now let's live in it. Where this movie just trusts you. And I think that plays into the quote unquote like adult themes, because a lot of kids slash family movies nowadays don't really trust the audience. They feel like they have to spoon feed you. And this movie, I think, does it very well. There are a couple of things where they kind of like, hey, that's Sid, that's the bad kid. He's bad. And then they show why he's bad by blowing up a G.I. Joe, type of soldier.
Right.
But yeah, no, I definitely love that aspect of it. Like majority of Pixar too, they trust you, and we just need that more in animated films, at let alone family slash kids films. And look, another thing getting into just how greatly they trust the audience is that Woody is a very flawed character. He's a jerk for what, 90% of the movie, if not more, I think.
Right.
How do you feel that really kind of impacts kids at a younger age, getting to see such a flawed character, but it being softened a bit by being a toy and animated?
Yeah, I mean, I think despite the being softened by the toy element, I think it's, I think what is, despite the fact that Woody is also kind of, pretty crude and not really a nice, likable character for a chunk. He's very pompous, he's very arrogant, feels like he can't be replaced. It's one thing for him to be like, nobody's going to get replaced, guys. Let's stay all with cool heads. But his perspective is like, hey, well, it's certainly not going to be me. And then when it is, he's struggling with the ideas of that. And I think what this film does super well is allow you to kind of, have a character at the center of it that learns that things aren't always going to be 100% the way that they were. And doesn't mean though that it ruins everything. It doesn't mean that it changes anything. I don't know that this was exactly the reasoning, but as somebody, do you have siblings?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I have a sister, and while my sister and I grew up and have plenty of fond memories, and I don't remember any moments of this happening because we were born just like a year and some change apart from one another. It's one of those things where I think that there is a big theme here about the idea of being replaced, like that now your parent is of course using toys, but like, like the older kid who's now got the baby coming in, and might struggle with the fact that all the attention is going to the baby. But in the end, you're still there, both of you. You know what I mean? Like the parent still wants both kids, but maybe one is getting more attention. I don't know that that was the intention of this
Mhm.
film, but I do think it's something that kids can relate to from Woody. And I think, a lot of times those kind of reactions do come with that feeling replaced, feeling like second. You can see it in friend dynamics as well. And I think Woody's journey of realizing what he's done, not only that he wants to, for a period of time, save his own skin, but also realizing that he's hurt somebody else in the process, somebody else who does deserve to be alongside him as a friend, and I think that to answer your long-winded question, or to answer with my long-winded answer, I should say, which I think is going to be a theme here. I think that the movie does a really good job of taking a character that could easily be very unlikable and creating like a nuanced story with him. And I think we need more stuff like that. I feel like nowadays it's all about like the good guy has to be likable from the start, and then they get themselves into trouble and they end up saving the day. And they might have some struggles and some like questionable choices throughout it, but it's a lot of times painted around like, oh, somebody else deceived the likable character. Whereas here, it's really a pompous character who's got to kind of learn through his own mistakes throughout the course of the film, and have self-reflection. And I love that about this film. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, and I think it's really, amazing how both of these characters try to kill each other at one point, like Buzz and
Yeah.
Woody.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Buzz, that just kind of, I love that like commentary. Like Buzz as a space ranger, he's supposed to go save people as a space cop. He sees Woody, the first instinct he has is to put the laser on him, which I think
Yeah.
is hilarious.
With the circle,
Yeah,
just circling.
exactly. And then once he like figures out he's a living being on the planet or whatever, he's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I'm like, what do you need help with or whatever? Like, I'm here. I crash landed, blah blah blah." And then later on, Woody, because he's jealous, tries to use RC and kind of run him off the table and kill Buzz that way. Um, and yeah, just overall, it's this movie just it is really good because it's able to kind of still make them both extremely likable characters despite literally trying to kill the other main character.
Right,
And movies nowadays, I think would be terrified of even showing a character's thinking of that, let alone
right,
actually going through with it. Because it's exactly what you said. There's so many movies nowadays where the character's perfect. The main character, the protagonist, he's a protagonist for a reason. He's supposed to be the stand-up person and can't do anything wrong. It's other people that does things wrong to them. And that's why they might mess up. It's not because it's their fault. And I think
right,
kind of giving that lesson to kids, especially back then, like, hey, it's okay if you messed up back then. You can still be accepted. You can still grow as a person or, being, and you can still be accepted by your family. You can still grow and continue to grow. We all mess up. We all have a past. I think that's just such a wonderful lesson. And even though most people might not look that deep into it, I still think subconsciously that can work on the level for kids, which is great. And it's very much needed because if not, with the current movies nowadays, you're like, oh, I cannot mess up whatsoever, right? Like that, it's almost like it's creating perfectionists.
right,
When this movie shows, like, hey, it's okay to mess up. You have to own up to it, but you'll still be accepted back into the family. And I love your reading of it too. Like the idea of being replaced by a new sibling. Like as an only child, I never would have thought of that. I thought of it more of like the friend angle or just like at work or whatever the case is. Like I'm like just being replaced in general. Like that's it's a hard feeling to go through. And it's nice to know that toys can go through it too. That's such a
yeah, yeah,
unique view that early Pixar really had time and time again.
right. Well, I mean, and I think it leads right up to the end of the movie. Now it's Christmas. What a perfect way to start with a birthday and now
Yeah.
Christmas, of like, oh no, we're gonna get replaced again possibly, and then it's like, what is it? It's a puppy, and it's like, yeah, now you have something even flashier that demands attention. That I would say even more so is kind of like symbolism of like a family having a new baby or something that demands attention, needs attention to exist. And now the toys, they just kind of have to laugh it off and recognize, that it's not gonna affect their stance in everything, and I think it's yeah, I just think the movie has like really nice messages and themes while also being so quotable,
Yeah.
so funny. My favorite line from this movie forever. I mean, and mind you, this is my favorite line amidst all of the incredible ones. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't the best line in the movie. This is my favorite line. Is during the during the birthday party at the beginning, and they're like going through all what the presents are, and the sergeant's like, the present is a lunchbox. A lunchbox? Who invited that kid? I don't know why that line always kills me,
Yeah.
dude. And rewatching it, it's just there's so many little moments, even like, Bo Peep being like, oh, somebody can watch the sheep tonight and we can hang out. And then you got Woody, like he's holding on to something. He's like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like something about it is so funny, and it's got this energy about it. You know, Mr. Potato Head, coming up with the I'm Picasso, you uncultured swine. Fantastic. Um, there's so many little moments, finding out that they got a Mr. Potato Head or Mrs. Potato Head at the end of the film, and he takes off the mustache, I got to shave. Like, it's so good. It's so, so good. It knows exactly what it is. There's so many little iconic beats and moments. The animation, while not as good as things Pixar would do later, is still really good for the first ever
Yeah. No, for
That's
sure.
one that is one thing that I will praise the world of animation for, man. When you look back at the first ever films of
Hmm.
all time, just like regular shop films, do they always hold up? You know, when you look at the first ever color films, do they always hold up? But when you look at the first ever feature-length animated film of all time, Snow White, still holds up. It's an
Yeah.
incredible looking film. The musical numbers, the colors, the vibrancy, the fluidity of it, it is insane. And then to go decades later and get the first ever 3D animated film, and it's this,
Hmm.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's truly incredible.
No, it's amazing. Just you can tell how much work they put into these films because obviously it doesn't hold up to a T, but for it to still be incredibly watchable, um, like it's a miracle. For being the first of its kind to trailblaze, like you can give that excuse to be like, well, it was the first of its kind. It's, it's not going to age the best because it was the first time they ever done it. Like they didn't know. But there are so many like 3D animated movies that have come out years later and they look worse than this. And I don't know if that's necessarily a testament to just how good they've done it here. Sometimes it's a testament because 3D is easier than 2D, and sometimes they wanted a cash grab. But even still, like that's still so incredible to do. Like I thought I was gonna watch it this time and be like, man, that animation, it's a little rough. I didn't mind it. Like, after the first few minutes and not looking at the humans, uh, I'm just in it and I just kind of forgot that I was watching a movie from 94, 95, sorry. But to go back to the line, there's one line that I do not know why it sticks with me so much. Um, it's way to go, Idaho. It's it's just said in such a it's like way to go, Idaho. Like it's something that's
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
sing-songy to it. Um, and I don't know, like it's like you said, there's certain lines in here that just kind of stick with you. It's so
Right.
insanely quotable. Which is great to know too. Like it's not only that they were trying to push the boundaries of the medium of film, but they were also putting so much care into the script and they were making
Yeah.
it really funny too.
And all the characters have moments, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like all of them have these little lines that are super memorable or funny and honestly also tap into the emotional side for me of this movie. Like there are little moments of just like when the binoculars sees that Woody and Buzz are actually coming after they knocked Woody off of the, like they tried to mess him up and they knocked him off of the truck at the end.
Mhm.
They think he's lying that they have Woody, and then like the binocular, just him saying like that it's them, like something about that. The voice in my like the voice, like when I was rewatching it, like that binoculars. It's crazy, kind of the voice they give him because even like there's the scene where Sid's gonna blow up that doll or blow up the toy soldier, and like the binoculars hit the dirt, but like the way he says it, like it's so high pitched and it's like I don't know, man. There's so many little moments in this film where the characters say stuff that's just so iconic to me. Like that's the best way I could describe it. It's just iconic, like little moments that are just like I feel like we crave that in movies these days. And
Yeah.
maybe the nostalgia of it, maybe the fact that this movie came out in a time of VHS and DVD where it was kind of like you would rewatch movies a lot. You'd rewatch the same movies over and over again because there was only so much.
Mhm.
Now there's such especially with what we do, we watch so many movies that like unless you take that purposeful time to rewatch something, you can easily go weeks or months without rewatching something that maybe you want to see again, but you just, you're fitting in all the new stuff. And so a movie like this, it just has so many like those moments that you almost chase in movies nowadays. Something that's
Yeah.
memorable, something that sticks with you, something like that, like a random line. It's just part of what I think makes Toy Story so charming and so much fun to watch. And I just love how diverse all the characters are. And to going back really quickly, I wanted to say it earlier when you were talking about like just the way it establishes this world. I think something else that's awesome in that first 15 minutes, not only getting to just see the world and see how they are, or like see how it establishes how this world works, but we get a moment with all of the main players pretty much of this world that really establishes who they are. A perfect example is like Rex, like the first scene we get with him, it's him rah
Yeah.
in front of Woody, and his whole thing is like, did I scare you? He's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be menacing, like
Yeah.
immediately for whatever else they do with Rex in the movies, that encompasses his character. You understood
Yeah.
immediately. Big T-Rex who's not scary.
Yeah.
Like and it wants to be scary, but he's a sweetheart. It
Mhm.
gives you everything you need to know about that character immediately. And they do that for everybody else. It
Mhm.
only takes about one scene with each character to really understand who this character is.
Mhm.
And now I just feel like we've kind of lost that, where like sometimes you'll leave a movie and you don't feel like you're like, oh, that character was cool, but they didn't do enough with him. Now it's movies like Toy Story, they didn't have to do an abundance with the character, but you felt like you still got something from the
Yeah.
character. There's something about it that's just there's a magic there that films I think today struggle to find.
Yeah, and like continuing on that magic, like they build on that to perfectly mirror Woody and Buzz because you get that scaring scene. And then when Buzz starts to get integrated more with these characters, you see that roar scene again. But instead of Woody just kind of blowing it off, you get Buzz kind of coaching him and like literally pushing him up like the diaphragm thing,
Right,
just saying like this is how you should do it. And then it works.
right,
Like so this movie is so great in that sense where it's able to just be like it just doesn't only tell you things. It deliberately shows you whenever
right.
it can. Um, and I think that's just so very well done. That's why I'm gonna start to get into why I'm a 3.5 instead of a 5 with this. I love everything in the house. Everything inside of the house, you get to see the struggle between the two. You get to see them mirrored with each other. It is when we get out of the house, there are great moments in it, but that's when I start to like kind of falter a little bit and I start to feel I'm like, okay, now, yep, we're
Now
hitting
you
the
mean
next scene.
outside of the house is, or just the like after we leave the main house?
After we leave the main house. So like
So even
anything,
in Sid's house?
I would say even in Sid's house, I love moments in it. But for some reason in this viewing, it felt like we were spent longer in there. I love all the Buzz stuff,
Yeah.
right?
I am Mrs.
Yeah.
Nesbit.
Like I love the absolute mental breakdown that we get with this character.
That is without a doubt one of my
Yeah.
favorite moments in any animated movie, in any movie ever, dude. Like just Mrs. Nesbit. I could quote that so many times. I see it in my head.
Yeah.
Rewatching it, I was cracking up watching that scene. But really quickly, before you continue to get into your negatives, just to touch on what you were talking about just a moment ago, and this goes into that Sid house sequence
Yeah.
when you mentioned that the movie will deliberately show you things without just telling you things. And I think that's part of what makes this movie so great for me as well. I agree, but another scene that's really impactful with that is, and it goes into the themes about not making assumptions
Mhm.
about something. Like Woody already has an assumption when Buzz shows up. He assumes, and this leads to him making every worst choice that just like leads to this to what happens in this film. But when it comes down to Sid's house, he assumes that all of those messed up toys are all cannibals, like, and so there's the scene where they come and fix Buzz, and this is part of what I love. They never speak a word, any of those
Yep.
toys. The most you hear is like "mama" from one of them, but like he thinks they're all gonna kill Buzz, and they end up fixing him, and then he realizes, and I think that's part of what I love about this film
Mhm.
too. Is like, you can have like characters that actually have an impact on the film that don't say a single word, and the visual storytelling is able to really like showcase
Yeah.
who these characters are. But anyway, let's hear your fantastic takes.
Well, just real quick, the whole like characters that don't speak a word and having an impact, I feel like that happens nowadays, but it's always the exact same impact, and it's that they're actually kind of cool. Like that's a cool character. Like I never feel like it's like, oh wait, no, they're actually nice, or like, oh wait, they're actually this. It's always, yeah, that guy was actually kind of cool. He just doesn't speak, the
Right,
quote
right.
unquote like Darth Maul effect. Um, and yeah, I don't know. So that great moment. That's another one. But
Hey,
I
but
think
listen, my boy Darth Maul, he's gotten plenty of love over the years,
no, yeah.
okay?
So right, it's like it's the reason I call it like the Darth Maul effect is like because I want a spin-off of that guy so we can actually get the whole character, you know? And then like a
Right,
lot of
right.
it's great after, you know? Um, but yeah, for this movie though, after we get outside of the house and Andy is trying to find his toys, they go to like Pizza Planet and you know and all these things. Um, I feel like it spends more time outside of the house and it just feels a little more like it's dragging along. Again, I love moments. We get the you are a toy scene under the truck, you know, and all that. Or the was the under the van or the truck? I forget now.
Under the van, yeah, yeah.
Van. Um, and yeah, and then you know we get the like kind of build to Pizza Planet, which also Disney. Why do we not have an actual Pizza Planet?
Yeah,
I feel
honestly.
like it's just an arcade and pizza place. Like it's not like the craziest thing in the world. Um,
Especially now with the Hollywood Studios expansion, like the fact that we have like the
yeah,
toy box and this, that, and the third is like a Pizza Planet just seems like it totally fits in there. Like,
exactly. So it's
yeah,
just I don't know. It's the craziest thing. Even if it's like if it's not there, because I know the whole thing with that land is like you're the size of a toy, so you know storytelling purposes for a Disneyland or whatnot. But
right.
you can they have so many other places they can put it. Um, and I just think that'd be really, really cool. And I don't know. But either way, that's besides the point. I just rewatching it this time, that's literally in my notes. I'm like, why do we not have this place? Like it'd just be awesome. Um, but yeah, everything outside the house, there's great moments, but I feel like it kind of struggles to kind of feel as smooth as it does inside of Andy's house. Um, and that's more so because they kind of feel like, I mean, it's just such a tough balance, right? Like you are the very first 3D film, so it's you can only do so much at once and really make it perfect. They get it right. What is it? 4 years later in 1999. Shout out Toy Story 2. Um, but again, like it just there's like a pacing issue. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just seems to be like we're just hitting certain scenes now that are great scenes, but kind of connecting them. Great scene. Okay, we're kind of dying down a little. And granted, it is because a lot of the characters are going through changes. When earlier on we're just getting to explore the differences, and I feel like that is always easier to do than actually explore the actual growth of characters, let alone in a children's movie. So for me, it just kind of falters there. But let's hear your defense because I know you're chomping at the bit.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm chomping at the bit. I would say that the Pizza Planet section and mentioning that and not mentioning the
Yeah.
claw, I mean, absolutely criminal. Like that's one of the best scenes in the whole movie. But and of course, iconic callback in the third movie with the
Yeah,
claw that
true.
saves everybody. But yeah, I think for me, here's my takeaway from all of that. Does the pacing slow down there? For sure.
Mm.
I think it's definitely your traditional, let's slow things down a little bit and spend some time with the characters. This is, of course, where Buzz Lightyear doesn't just come to some like silly, you know, mental crisis. Like he's really sitting there struggling. The scene where he tries to fly and he ends
Yeah.
up busting himself. Like I think it's a really impactful scene, and I think you kind of have to bring things down for that moment to really work, and for the big ramp up at the end, that's just tons of fun. And I would argue that for me, what all of that middle section of the film really, I think, gets across for our characters is that for a little bit, all that seems to matter to Woody is to still be on top,
Mm.
to be the toy in Andy's house, And I think with that middle section of the movie and being a lost toy and now being in a house where you're in danger of being destroyed and not cherished, I think ultimately it plays heavier into the themes of recognizing that it's better to be part of a family than be the head of a family or be the light. You know what I mean? It's better to be a part of this. It's essentially also like the classic like life isn't always greener on the other side, kind of thing. Or more than anything, being able to just truly value what it is you have at home. And I think that that's something that I think that middle section, that impact only really works because you have this section. that I think is, while I can understand what you're saying about the pacing going down, I think it's just because it feels more dreary. I think it is meant to feel bleak and dreary. Sid's house is terrible, and that first part of the movie is so much fun. It's vibrant, it's silly. You have this whole world of toys working together and celebrating each other and taking care of one another. And now immediately our two main characters who are not really in the best place with one another are lost in this world where they have to rely on each other to because they've both realized like we got to get back home. You know what I mean? At least for a little bit until Mrs. Nesbit comes out. But yeah, I so it's not even like a really strong defense. I can understand what you're saying. I think for
Yeah.
me it just works better for in my mind for the overall themes of the film. I think the film really gets to where it needs to in the end because of that section. I don't know that our characters have as impactful as an arc if you don't have them out in this bleak world versus that very fun, fast-paced, first part of the movie. But listen, I could be just blowing smoke up the film's ass. It could certainly be like what you were saying, like
Yeah.
it's the first movie of the art style, and I think there are other movies that would come in the next few years that for their first 3D movie would kind of, be able to accelerate on things. I think DreamWorks and Universal did an incredible job with the first Shrek. Yeah, sure. Similar to Toy Story, the faces on some of the humans aren't the best by today's standards of what the animation can do, but the story is pretty incredible in that movie. But I'd even argue
Mm.
that everything from Shrek leaving the swamp to saving Fiona is awesome. And then that downtime in between when they get back to far, far away isn't always as exciting as the end, but you need it. You know what I mean? It really solidifies that romance between Shrek and Fiona. Now, we're not talking about Shrek here, but I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
Um, but it's I get what you're saying, but I do think that middle section of the movie is just so integral to the overall themes that it's like I just feel like if you remove it, and I'm not saying you're saying to remove it, by the way, but like it's just I think it's just so well handled, especially again for a film so long ago, first time of its type, and I just think so much about it really works. But I'll tell you this. I'll
Mm.
tell you this. I do think that Toy Story 2 is an improvement.
Mm.
I do think it's an incredible film. They're both five-star movies to me, while also recognizing that Toy Story 2 is a better five-star movie.
Yeah.
But and I would argue that it does that middle section a little bit,
Mm.
a lot better in
Yeah.
terms of how it handles going from this adventure at the beginning to save Woody to, now you have this middle section where you got this, dramatic, when somebody loved
Yeah.
me. I won't sing too much more because I don't want to, get you copyright claims. But yeah, anyway, long-winded response.
No, I mean like that's yeah, it's just something about that second film. Maybe it's the types of characters that we're with and like what exactly like you have the A and B plot line. Maybe I'm just missing the B plot line to the A plot line, right? Like we only really see the Buzz and Woody stuff in this middle section when it's dreary. Maybe if there was more inclusion of the other toys in it and like we get to more the juxtaposition, like how is it being run now, in Andy's room?
I can agree with that. I think that that's one thing that shows its age is that it is a very straightforward
Yeah.
story and plot. In that middle section, when we do cut back to those other toys, it's just kind of like, I hope they're okay out
Yeah.
there in the big bad world.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like you have the two storylines in Toy Story 2 where you get the rescue mission, you're getting, the big Al cheesy fingers and all that stuff. So,
Right.
um maybe that's why it's an improvement. And I still got to rewatch it for this series and eventually do that episode, but that's going to be something that I'm definitely going to carry in now. Which is that's also why I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm able to now like really stack it up against the other Pixar films because at the end of this too, I do want to do like a whole re-ranking video because I have one before again from like 2023. So things are definitely going to change, especially with the newer films. Um, but speaking of kind of like ranking for you, at least, where is this in your Pixar pantheon?
Man, I mean, I haven't ranked the Pixar movies across the board, but I would say that this has to be somewhere in my top 10. I'm gonna
Mhm.
say 10 because there's a lot of Pixar movies now, and there's some that have really just done incredible things. Like just another thing too is like it's tough. If I'm saying personal connection, top five. If I'm saying best Pixar films, top 10. I still think it's one of the best movies they've ever made. I think that in recent years, there's been some movies that are enjoyable, but do they stand the test of time?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I love some modern day movies like Soul. Maybe a better movie on a overall level, but not
Mhm.
really. You know what I mean? Like it's not as quotable, it's not as emotionally connective to me, but some people might disagree with that. You know what I mean? Or I love Luca. Silenzio Bruno,
Yeah.
but I don't know that it holds that same weight. You know what I mean? But then there's things like Inside Out that for me really, I mean, they make me cry every time I watch them, you know? And even in the Toy Story franchise, there are parts in Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3 that make me cry. And
Mhm.
even watching this movie again, the scene where even though I've seen it 4,000 times, dude, I was gonna drop an F bomb, but I don't want to do that on your channel. Even though I've done that 4,000 times,
Yeah.
I I like that scene at the end where they see that Woody and Buzz are actually coming, and all the other toys are like, "Oh man, like he was telling the truth." I don't know why. I'm a sucker for a moment like that where characters like recognize that the main character that was trying to get them to do something or trying to was like telling the truth the whole time, and now they're all like gun ho for it. If the
Mhm.
music's right, if the performances are right, I start feeling emotions. So I felt that here too. So anyway, this very long-winded answer to tell you top 10 is what I'll say.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, I mean I definitely agree with it still being able to stack up with many of the modern Pixar movies is incredibly impressive. I will say I think I will upset people with my Luca take when I finally get down to it because I do think that's a top five Pixar movie.
It's a good
Um,
movie. It's a really
yeah.
good movie. I'll tell you that. I think it's a really good movie.
Mhm.
I think, and mind you, maybe it could be a case of that I throw these out a little bit more than you,
Mhm.
but I think Pixar, especially in the first 15 years, has some multiple five-star movies. The Toy Story movies are one of them. Um, which technically the third one doesn't fall under the
Mhm.
15-year mark, but I think the first three Toy Story are five-star movies. Wall-E, I think is a five-star movie. Monsters Inc., I think is a five-star movie. A movie just even outside of that,
Mhm.
Inside Out, I think is a five-star movie. And I would start have to start looking through the list. There's some that aren't even that are near the bottom, like A Good
Yeah.
Dinosaur,
Yeah.
which is fine. It's just like or Cars 2,
Mhm.
but yeah, man, there's something about Luca that for me is like it's a
Mhm.
good movie, but I don't know that it hits upper echelon.
Fair enough. And I will say it was released in a weird time, like this was in the era
Oh, real
where
quick,
yeah.
Finding Nemo's a five-star movie. I'm sorry,
And
continue.
I'm no, you're good. I'm still waiting for you to mention two movies within that era that haven't been mentioned yet that should be up there. As you think on it, I'll continue my thought on
Continue,
on
continue.
this. Yeah, like for some reason it was Soul, Luca, and Turning Red were like the three Pixar movies that were not released in theaters. And I think it was like last year or the year before, earlier in the one of those years where they finally released the three in theaters, but each was like a 1 week event. And it was like not connected weeks or anything, it was like random weeks that they decided to do it. And the only one of the three that I got to see was Luca in the theater. And it made the movie even better. Like I really liked it before, but this made me love it, and I actually did cry um, with it. So I think having that as
I
the
cried with Luca too, so
yeah,
I'm with you there.
shoot, man, that ending is just
It's a great
oof.
movie. I
Yeah,
don't think Pixar has so I pulled up a list really
yeah, yeah,
quickly. I'm cheating. Um, for a personal
yeah.
connection, Bug's Life, another one. I haven't seen it in a
Mm.
long time, but I don't know if I'll throw out the blanket five-star, but
Yeah.
if from the many times I have seen it, I'm gonna say at least four-star movie.
Mhm.
Um, The Incredibles,
There it
five-star
is.
movie.
That's one of them.
Ratatouille is one that many immediately throw the five-star.
Mm.
I'm gonna say it's up there though.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 4.5 for me,
All
but
right.
it's a fantastic movie. But
Yeah.
mind you, I haven't seen it in a few years, so quite a few years actually. Probably like over maybe like I haven't seen that movie in over 10 years. But I've
Oh,
seen it. I've seen it many times.
yeah.
I probably have genuinely seen it at least 15 times in my life. But and then Up. Up is another one, man. I listen, am I gonna say all of Up is 5 star? I don't know. I'm gonna have to give it a rewatch just to
Mhm.
see. But that first 5 minutes is probably the best opening to any Pixar movie ever made. Like getting me to cry before I give a shit about the movie. I'm sorry. I don't. I was trying to tell myself not to curse on your show. That just rolled out. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Um, yeah, getting me to cry that early into your movie is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy with a
Impressive.
score, with a mainly with a story and a score.
Yeah.
Incredible piano. But yeah, man, I mean Coco.
Yeah.
There's some incredible films in the lineup. But yeah, even like looking at this list, when we're talking about top 10 material here, does Brave, The Good Dinosaur, Finding Dory, the Cars sequels, Onward, do these movies stack up? Turning Red? I don't know. Elemental, Lightyear,
Yeah.
like it'll be interesting. I've only seen Lightyear once. I'd like to rewatch that one. I remember liking it, but I'd be curious to see how I feel about it today. But anyway, I'm long wind. I cut you off initially. I'm
No, you're
sorry.
good. You're good. I mean, it's all great points and such, and I don't know. I'm excited to continue this series, and I'll definitely have you back on for other episodes if you're down.
Hell yeah.
Because I've been wanting to rewatch these movies, and this is definitely giving me like a a reason to do so. Obviously to get something out on the channel that's in a new format that I haven't really done. These like longer videos with a guest, and also it's just time to re-rank them because 3 years and how many of them come out. And like we already had one this year in Hoppers, and we're getting Toy Story 5 as well. So this is a 2 movie year, so it felt like the right time to really get into this.
Right.
But any other thoughts that you have on Toy Story that you'd like to share?
I mean, firstly, just thank you for having me on. Genuinely appreciate it. It's always nice to chat movies with you, man. Really enjoy it in person, or the many times you've been on my channel, or just shooting the crap. With that said, yeah, I think what's just true, like obviously we have our different thoughts. We've gone back and forth a little bit. I think what's truly amazing about this film is how well it holds up, how
Mhm.
much it's able to balance a sense of like just being a movie. I think nowadays things feel so Coco Melonified, if you will, where it's like everything has to be so for kids.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm a little older than you, but a bit older than you. I feel like I grew up on so many things that just were movies, and
Mhm.
parents and kids enjoyed them. And at a point, it felt like we kind of made things for kids only. And not to say that there wasn't things that were for kids when I was younger, but the things that were popular and Pixar at their prime, I think they were making movies that were for people. I think you and I actually, spoke in DMs on Instagram about like a clip about when they were first making Toy Story, that it was just like they were just making movies for people. And you can see that in the movie. You can see
Mhm.
that in the movie. It's not being made to be overly safe about everything that it's saying, everything that it's depicting. It is very much trying to be just like a fun story. It's inventive, it's beautifully animated for the time. I think it still holds up in a lot of ways. Just little silly elements about it that are a little like goofy for its age, but honestly, I think those things give it charm. I think the characters have like withstood time, not only because of the sequels, but because of this movie. There's so much about what works in the sequels of Toy Story that's because of this movie. And I think more than anything, what you just have here is a really memorable, cute, charming, fun time that honestly I never get bored of watching. I could rewatch it again right now and not feel any sort of way about it because it's just one of those movies. It's feel good. And I feel like that's something I miss in a lot of animated movies nowadays. I feel like they're always trying to like they make a point to tug at the heart. They make a point to make a point in the narrative.
Yeah.
And there's just something to like just saying, "Hey, we're gonna have a feel good movie that has themes in it, but they are a package and
Mhm.
not the point." So
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, that was extremely well put. And like that made me remember like how many just business jokes there are in here. Like there are a lot of just jokes that you would not get until you're like a working adult. And
Right.
even then, like maybe if you work in an office, like
Right.
just the way that this movie doesn't Cocomelonify, to its audience, if you will. Because it's not just like random stuff being thrown on the screen. Like it takes the time to actually have important dialogue in there too. Like you actually get great conversations between Buzz and Woody, and it furthers the growth, by actually like what they're saying and how that can resonate with people of all ages, even if you haven't learned certain lessons that this movie's telling you until you're in your adult years. Um, but yeah, no, it's truly been great revisiting this and talking about it with you. I'm so glad you're on my channel now, I've been on yours so many times. I was trying to figure out a way to bring on guests, and you had to be one of the first ones for sure. Um, if, you know, if I have you on again, I'd be so grateful for it, especially in this series. Like I'm excited to talk to you off air to see which ones, which other ones you'd be interested, especially the later years. I think that'd be very fun to kind of compare, especially with the first Pixar movie. Um, but yeah, please plug yourself. Anthony has an amazing channel, and all his info will be down in the description. But please share your channel down right now if you can.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words and thanks for having me on, man. It's like I said earlier, it's always a great time to chat movies with you and just kind of, just shoot the shit. But yeah, so just to quickly plug myself for anybody watching at home, my name is Anthony A. Perez, and I run a YouTube review site that is just my name, or a YouTube channel, I should say. It's just my name, Anthony A. Perez. And at this point, thankfully, even though I have one of the most generic names on the planet, if you just type in Anthony Perez, I should be the first one that pops up now, only because I've saturated YouTube with a bajillion of my videos. But I talk about film and television. Like Jeremy mentioned earlier, we're both part of the same Critics Association, which thankfully has given us early access to film and television, a lot of very popular films that you likely want to hear about. So every week I have multiple reviews up on the channel for things early, as well as just keeping up to date with whatever I didn't get to see early. Fun retrospective videos, as well as on Instagram and TikTok, the AA Perez. If you go there, you can find short form content. I would do under 3 minute long, short, more condensed reviews of the various films I'm covering, as well as fun ranking videos. I've done some interviews as well. And if you come on over, you'll probably see Jeremy because he's popped on there many times. So thank you. I don't know when this video is coming out, so I won't plug specific videos, but if you're watching this, head on over to my channel and likely whatever the big releases of the week are or have been, I'll have something up.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Anthony, for being here. Thank you guys for watching and listening to one of the first episodes of Yeti Talks. I'm definitely going to continue this series, especially the Pixar series. As always, thank you guys for watching, liking, and subscribing. Be sure to stay tuned for Yeti Films content, and I'll watch you later.